private sector executive, they really need to understand that they are no longer outside of the battlefield, right? Because critical industries, whether it's healthcare, finance, energy, telecom, transportation, cloud, and supply chain provider are really now part of geopolitical competition. Because our current reporting shows that adversaries increasingly targeting infrastructure, supply chain, and public trust and dual use technology. Executives should really modify their threat models to include nation-state activity, cyber-enabled influence operation, and destructive attack, including insider risk and vendor compromise and AI-enabled deception. It's just the type of world we are getting into these days. Because once they break into one of those corporation, might seem like, okay, they are not that important, but then it becomes a foothold where they can traverse and through the supply chain and get eventually access to Fortune 100 company or to secure system that belong to the government.
Welcome to Podcast Wise, Perspectives, Cybersecurity, and AI. Every board wants military-grade security, but few understand what it actually means. In the high-stakes world of Silicon Valley and national defense, treating cybersecurity as a rigid department of NO is the fastest way to kill innovation and compromise your infrastructure. Today, we are joined by Commander Bob Fabien, BZ Zinga, a U.S. Navy information warfare commander, seasoned Silicon Valley CISO, and board advisor. In this episode, Commander Zinga strips away the corporate fluff to reveal why true executive accountability starts with extreme ownership, and why unmanaged generative AI adoption is creating hidden, structurally fragile architectures across enterprise tech. We're breaking down how to orchestrate complex cyber frameworks using the principles of classical music, why courage is the non-negotiable trait for the next 5 years, and how to build guardrails, not gates. Let's dive in. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hey, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing
Yeah,
today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for
Fantastic.
asking. So my husband, just want to do a quick shout out. My husband loves your podcast, Leadership
Okay.
and Success Podcast with Coach BZ. So he's very into the podcast, and he wanted me to invite you on to have a conversation.
I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of
I
course.
appreciate that.
Of course. So, Commander, you've managed mission-critical security infrastructure for both the military under national security mandates and for fast-moving corporate entities. What is the
Mhm.
single biggest misconception corporate boards have about applying military-grade disciplines to corporate cyber strategies?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Before I do, let me introduce myself really briefly. So I am Bob Fabien,
Mhm.
Busy Zinga, my call sign in the Navy, Busy, Bravo Zulu, which I kind of like. I think it's cool. So yes, I am a cybersecurity executive, board advisor, keynote speaker, but I am also a U.S. Navy information warfare commander. It's been 21 years now, and I should be retiring very, very soon. But anyway, so I really have had a lot of experience leading cybersecurity, technology, and risk management initiative across the military, higher education, and Silicon Valley organization. I'm the former Chief Information Security Officer for Santa Clara University, and kind of specialize in cybersecurity leadership, AI, emerging tech, privacy governance, and organizational resilience. So I think I am really passionate about developing the next generation of leaders and helping organizations navigate kind of complex challenges at the intersection
Mhm.
of technology, business, and national security. Like I say, I am retiring from the Navy after 21 years. I think probably another 10, 15 years or so in Silicon Valley, and I'm going to retire again. So I'm really thinking a lot about the next generation. So to answer your question, I believe you kind of asked, one of the biggest misconceptions about military grade discipline.
Mhm.
So I think one of the conception is that military-grade discipline really means rigidity, hierarchy, and command and control decision-making. I remember the first job I had in Silicon Valley, that was in 2014. I think I had like 9 interviews. They knew I had the skill and I was the person to do the job, but one thing they really couldn't get behind them, it was my military background. At that time, I've been in the military for maybe, I don't know, 11, 12 years or so. So I was a junior officer. I think I just made lieutenant in the Navy Reserve. And they were like, yeah, we really like you, but we really don't think you're going to fit well into our culture here in Silicon Valley. You may be a little bit too rigid. Well, what I think is, it really doesn't have to be, right? Because I think at its best, this military discipline is really about clarity of mission. I think people in the military are very, very clear about the mission. I think that's good for Silicon Valley. It's good for the industry. I think we really have defined accountability. There is another book I have here somewhere. A couple of my fellow sailors wrote about extreme ownership. We really own the mission and our output, right? No excuses. And we are very much accountable to our people and to the mission. And I think, again, that's another one of those traits that's, I think, going to work well in boards in Silicon Valley and the industry. We tend to rehearse risk responses. Now, in the Navy, we like to say, I think the Army is the same way. We kind of train like we fight, and we fight like we train. So I think, again, that's another trait that is very good for any industry. We have trusted teams. Trust is extremely pivotal in everything we do. And also, we take decisive action under pressure. So, again, I believe all of these traits of military-grade discipline, I believe, would very much will relate or translate well into the industry. So I think corporate boards should not try to militarize the business. I don't think that's the idea. They shouldn't adopt the military principle. What they do is should adopt the military principle of readiness, of resilience, of intelligence, and after action learning. And I think that's really what makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's like using it as a blueprint and not like a rigid thing to protocol, right? Like using it as a blueprint to say, okay, well, let's use this and then adjust accordingly. You know, what fits best to the business. Because one size doesn't fit all. If it fits the military, it might not fit, Silicon Valley businesses or businesses throughout the world, right? So
that is so true.
Yeah, because personally, military grade for me, I'm like, yeah, that sounds nice. I will use the blueprint, right? I use the blueprint and then, have some flexibility in it for the business cases.
But I guess another thing I can add to this, if I may, is also, there is no, like you said, one size fits all. No, I know 21 years ago when I first joined the Navy, the type of leadership I had at the time, very different than now, 21 years later. For example, myself, I became a commanding officer, right? Less than 2% of people who join the Navy end up becoming commanding officer. Obviously, I am not white. I am black. That doesn't change. And I've had quite a few women who were commanding officers. Actually, some of my best commanding officers happen to be women. But for example, the command I was in charge of, 2/3 of my people were enlisted, and of those, more than 2/3 were Gen Zs. And I must tell you, those kids, they don't think the same way I do. I am a Gen X, right? So I even had to go to my daughters, hey, can you please teach me how I can get through to those people? Because they are almost like aliens, right? It's definitely, I think there is something we need to consider when it comes to military leadership 20 years ago and now is, again, there's been a lot more diversity, a lot more women than there's ever been, a lot more people of color like myself. But not only that, but also the generation, Gen Zs and millennial and Gen Xs, we don't think exactly the same way. What worked for me when I went through boot camp 21 years ago is absolutely not going to work with these Gen Z folks, right? So I feel like there's been a lot of changes and evolution even in the way we lead our sailors and our service members now in 2026, as opposed to 2004 when I first joined in.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of generation, I just talked to my son who's 14. So like talking to him, yeah, he does, we communicate well enough that I
Yep.
do understand him. But sometimes when he talks to his friends, some of the sentences, I'm like, what are you talking about, sir?
Yeah, I know some of my daughter's friends, they need time out and all of that. I'm like, okay, I don't know what is going on, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
get triggered and all of that. But yeah, it's a different generation, but you still need to be able to speak to them, communicate with them effectively, and be able to motivate them regardless. But I guess what I'm saying is, no, the workplace has changed a lot, and I think with that, our idea of military grade, discipline has evolved as well.
hmm So you worked extensively with boardrooms on cyber readiness. When a CISO walks into a board meeting today, what is the exact metric or perspective change they must lead with to shift the conversation from a technical cost center to a strategic business enablement?
Yeah, I I really think it is very. Okay, let me put it this way. I think being technical as a CISO or a tech leader, that's kind of a given. But I think what is crucial this day, you really need to be strategic. I think you need to be seen as a business leader, not just as a technical leader. Because if you are only a technical leader, I think you've already failed, right? Because the
Mm.
business doesn't really need it, especially at the board level and the senior leadership level of any organization. Well, they need to know, okay, these are our strategic objective. This is what we want to accomplish as a business. That's also part of the reason why I felt like I needed to get a MBA, which I did in 2017, almost 10 years ago. But I think what is important, whether you are in charge of the IT or the security or emerging tech or whatever it is, how can my function enable the business? Right?
Mm.
How can I enable the business to achieve its business outcome? In my case, like in a safe and secure way. Right? It's not like doing security for security's sake, being like in a silo and doing our own security. It's doing security for a reason, and the reason is to enable the business. As an
Right.
example, I was the CISO for a company, directly a startup in San Francisco, where we used uh, machine learning and artificial intelligence, for customer support automation. But one of the most important things I did there as the head of cyber security and IT was to really drive sales, right? Because a lot of our prospective clients, especially big client, Fortune 1000, one of the reasons why it would take them a while to become customer, where there was a lot of friction in our sales cycle, is because they really didn't feel great about our security posture prior to me being there. Security was a big question mark.
Mm.
I spent a lot of time talking about security. How are you going to treat our personal information once we give it to you? That was extremely important to them. So by the time I got there, I was able to streamline the sale
The sales
process.
cycle.
And I
Mm.
feel like as a tech executive, that is one of the most important things you can do. Really show to your prospective customer, hey, we care a lot about the security and the confidentiality of your information. And this is what we have put in place to ensure that your information remain confidential. So it's really about building that trust, right? And doing so, again, I was able to move the ball forward and allow my organization to gain a lot more logos. So I think that's very important as a tech executive. You really need to be strategic and really think about how to enable the business.
Yeah. Because also, I remember when I used to do like break fix, I would be siloed,
Mhm,
right? As a, help desk, be siloed in the corner. Mind
mhm,
you, like a team of four was kind of in a little corner, but then everybody else in the workplace was together more
mhm.
so. And like you said, like working security wise, at that point, there was no big like fuss about cybersecurity, right?
Yes.
Maybe that was what, almost 15 years ago,
Mhm,
right? So it it was more like IT break fix. So I had to make sure that people saw the value of
yes.
me fixing their computers, right? Like if you if I didn't fix their computers, they'll be like not working. So you
Yes.
can make the money. So
Yes.
myself, I like my purpose at that point was like, okay, I got to make sure that everybody runs. Like, everybody was
Absolutely.
up and running, that their printer was working,
Yeah.
laptops were working, and everything was working. So that was my value add, right?
Absolutely. And I
But
really like what you say, because in many ways, I feel like my job is almost being like a translator, right? So
Mhm.
I would take what we do in IT, cybersecurity, and translate that into business language that the executive can
Yeah.
understand and the board can relate to. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I call the tech speak versus the business speak or
Yeah.
the English speak. And people are
Mhm.
like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm translating. I'm
Yes.
translating. I'm making sure that you understand
And
what
that's
it
really
means.
crucial. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So as a recognized thought leader in predictive analytics, how should executive leadership look at predictive risk mitigation to prevent systemic failures rather than reacting to breach alerts?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think this is a really good question. I believe like predictive risk mitigation really means looking for weak signals before they become enterprise failures.
Mm,
So leaders should ask, where are identities over privilege? Where is patch latency increasing? Where are third parties creating concentration risk? Where are AI tools being adopted faster than governance can follow? So,
mhm.
predictive security is not about predicting every attack, but it's really about identifying where the organization is structurally fragile before the adversary does. So, I think
Mm,
that's really what it's all about.
okay. So like if you see like faint signals, right, in the background, you're like, okay, why? Why is there a
Mhm.
leak? Right? Why
Yes.
is there a leak? Why is it, oh, this spot looks wet right here? Why?
Yes.
And before like, you should sort of look at it, make sure, keep an eye on it, and then at one point it gets bigger. Okay, let's investigate.
Hmm.
Right? Let's see what is the issue? Why is it leaking?
Yes.
And then in that investigation, you can prevent a big leak, a flood, right? So,
Yes.
yeah.
And I also feel like as a tech executive, what I like is eventually I'd like to kind of work at the what I call the strategic level,
Mm,
because for many people, especially in the startup world in Silicon Valley, a lot of the startup, when they hire you as a person in charge of cybersecurity, usually you are very tactical. You are putting away a lot of fires, right?
mhm.
But you don't really have an idea of where you are going to be in 3 to 5 to 10 years from now. So I think you, as a tech executive, you really want to become strategic and have a roadmap in such a way that you can kind of look around the corner, not only what you are facing now, but what you're going to be facing in a couple of years, and kind of prepare your organization for a future that doesn't exist yet. And in order to
Yeah.
do that, again, you have to be strategic, you have to be predictive, and not always reacting to what is happening right now.
Yeah. It's like putting a lot of fires,
Yes.
right? So, and then how do you prevent the fires to explode at that point? Because
Yes.
you have so many fires to take out. This. All right. So your newsletter focuses heavily on leadership, excellence, accountability, and devotion, which spells out lead.
Hmm.
In the event of a severe zero-day exploit or data breach, what does true executive accountability look like behind closed doors?
Well, I think true accountability behind closed door really starts with ownership. No, I
Mm,
talked about extreme ownership earlier, right? It's not about blaming, because sometimes what happens in certain culture is people start, looking for a scapegoat or to point fingers and blame. And I think that doesn't really help anyone. I think executives should ask, what did we know? When did we know it? What decision did we delay? And what assumption failed? Who needs
mm,
support right now? I think that's really most critical, right? Accountability means protecting customer, protecting your employees, regulator, and the mission while learning as fast as you can, learning fast enough to prevent repeat failure. Right. So the worst response, I think, is optics management. Just making sure that we look good. That's really not the objective. The best response is the truth, transparency, and discipline recovery and visible leadership. You need to recover as quickly as possible, and you need to learn those lessons and then apply them into your governance structure, and making sure they become lesson learned for your enterprise so that you don't repeat the same mistakes again. It's okay to make mistakes, and we are human and we will make mistakes, but I would say, like one of my mentors told me, don't repeat the same mistake twice. Really, really learn from your failures and then get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So through emerging technology cybersecurity, ETC lens, corporate leaders are rushing to adopt generative AI for competitive advantage. What is the hidden structural vulnerability that decision makers are completely blind to it right now?
Well, it is true that AI is really being deployed with speed. I guess let me talk about the CISO versus the AI speed paradox.
Okay.
I feel like the hidden structural vulnerability is unmanaged AI adoption across the enterprise. We used to call about shadow IT. I'm sure you know all about it. In many organizations, people just start bringing in their own system. And I feel like the same thing is happening with AI right now. So many organizations are deploying AI much faster than they can govern the data access, the model behavior, the identity, the vendor risk, and intellectual property exposure, or even human oversight. So the danger, I believe, is not just one bad AI tool, but the danger is thousands of AI-assisted decisions operating without clear accountability. So the World Economic Forum, for example, I read that I'm going to write a post about this 2026. The outlook highlights that the intersection of AI adoption and cyber readiness and widening resilience gaps, right? That's something they produced very recently. So I think that's definitely a challenge. Chief Information Security Officer and executive need to take seriously in 2026.
Yeah, I totally agree, because the AI is like a buzzword that the boardrooms are like saying, hey, we want AI, we want AI. But then the people that are using it, they're like, okay, well, there's hallucinations. There's, these guardrails that we need to make sure that we are within, right? And like all of the policies. And
Yes.
what about AI readiness? There's cybersecurity readiness, but then there's AI readiness also. So is your data right? Is the data ready to be used for AI? Is
Yes.
it? Is it not? Like those things are not considered, because
Absolutely.
the boardroom is like, we want AI is this shiny new object. In the last few years, they're like, this shiny new object, let's get it. Let's get it. But then the infrastructure is not ready.
Yes, and we definitely need a strong governance in order to be successful and be able to manage the risk.
Yeah, definitely. So you've managed sprawling cyber defense operation with multi-million-dollar budgets. How do you maintain operational agility and avoid the trap of administrative bureaucracy when integrating emerging tech into legacy systems?
Well, I guess I can talk about dual art leadership model I use. So I think you maintain agility by really separating the speed of a mission from the governance chaos, right? So I believe in guardrails, not gates, right? The gate is going to pretty much stop you, but the guardrail is just going to allow you to move as fast as you can within the guardrail. So it does add some safety where you can still go as fast as you need to, right? As far as innovation is concerned, but you stay within the guardrail. So you give teams clear security pattern, approved architectures, identity standard, logging requirement, and risk threshold, so they can move fast and they can still innovate without having to reinvent control decision every single time. So bureaucracy tends to grow when leaders confuse control with paperwork. So real governance, I believe, actually accelerate the mission because everyone knows the rules of the road. So you get the guardrails in place, and then people can go as fast as they possibly can and still do their job. So again, security is enabling the business, is supporting innovation and not being what causes friction or what we used to be called the Department of No, N-O. No, can't do it. Too insecure and pretty much work against the business. What we need to become is the Department of No, K-N-O-W. We need to know the business and then pretty much consult with our business leaders and tell them how they can still accomplish those business objectives, but in a safe and secure way.
That makes sense. So now the security talent gap, the cybersecurity talent gap is a frequent headline. From your perspective as a mentor and executive coach, is it truly a shortage of technical skills, or our leadership paradigm and recruitment pipelines structurally broken?
I think it is both. Now, there is a technical talent gap, but the way I look at it, the deeper issue is a leadership and pipeline problem. Right? Because we keep asking for unicorn instead of building people. We ask for people who really do not exist. I have even seen a couple of job announcements where they were asking for people who had skill for a technology, like they were asking for 10 years experience when the technology has been around only for 5. So it was impossible to find someone to have those skills. So we overvalue certification. I think they are valuable, but we do overvalue them, in my opinion, and we undervalue the curiosity, the discipline, communication, and judgment of people who may not be in the cybersecurity field now, but who could be a great fit. Now, when I got into cybersecurity space, I started doing this full time in 2005. And back then, the big focus really was on people like me at the time who had STEM background, like science, technology, engineering, and math. But the truth is, cybersecurity is such a big field. There is room for other people who have other type of skill. Again, it's not just technical, right? It is much more than that. I feel the future cybersecurity workforce will really come from veterans, teachers, analysts, engineers, business professionals, and underrepresented communities. That's another thing. I feel like we need a lot more women and people of color too. I know, for example, in Silicon Valley, they're aware, or maybe still are, some businesses, they only hire people from specific places, like from Stanford or from Berkeley. And of course, if you go to those places, the only people you are going to get are going to look exactly the same. And I think that really doesn't help you, because you really need that diversity in order to be able to know what is your blind spot. Because if everybody comes from the same background, they think the same way, they all have the same type of education, they're going to be looking at things the same way. Whereas when you have a more diversity, I think you are a lot more performant, and people can see things that you yourself may not be aware of. So I think if leaders are willing to mentor, to train, and to create pathways, we're going to be able to solve this problem. But we need to look, I think, outside of the traditional places we've been looking for talent.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because like I've seen some job postings where they were asking as an entry level 5 years of experience. And I'm like, how do you get 5 years of experience as an entry level for cybersecurity? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't
at
make
all.
sense at all. Yes.
At all. And then, they're asking for, CISSP as an entry level, and you're like, you
No.
take 5 years to get CISSP
Yes.
as a requirement
Yes.
to get it. So I'm like, that does not make sense.
Yeah,
You're
I can
never
say
gonna
a
get
lot
that
about
person.
CISSP. CISSP is really an advanced certification. For the longest, it's been really the gold standard for cyber security. And I got my CSSP in February 2009. I still remember the date. And shortly after that, for about 10, 15 years, I was part of a group that actually decided which question would be on the CISSP exam. I mean, they really take it very, very seriously. It is not for beginners. Absolutely not.
No,
You have to
it's
have
not.
at least 5 years experience in two. It used to be 10 domain, but now it is 8 domain of security. So no, that's definitely not a test and an exam, a certification for entry-level people. Even people like me, with all of the experience I have, when I was part of that group, twice they made us take the new test, the new question that we selected, and the question we got rid of. But even people with my skill set almost failed the test. So it is not
Right.
for beginners.
Right.
I can
Because
tell you
like I
that.
remember taking it. I failed 3 times. I was successful on the 4th,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is not for the weak.
Yes. Yes.
It is not for the weak. All right. So as an information warfare commander, you see macro level geopolitical cyber movements. How should a private sector executive in a critical industry modify their long-term threat model based on the current global information warfare trend?
That's a very, very good question, because I think just now, a few years ago, 7, 10 years ago, a lot of businesses, even in your Silicon Valley, were like, okay, I don't have to worry about nation state and all that because no, I am not part of a government. Well, the problem is a lot of those nation states, they may not be able to break into the Pentagon because our security is really optimum. As you've heard, it looks like our budget is going up to $1.5 trillion. I don't know how many organizations have that type of money in the budget. But the thing is, for the work that we do, though, we do have to partner with a lot of other organizations, right? We have DoD contractors. So, China or Russia may not be able to break into the Navy or Pentagon, but they definitely might be able to break into someone who has a contract with the Navy to work on a specific protocol or program. So I guess what I'm saying is private sector executive, they really need to understand that they are no longer outside of the battlefield, right? Because critical industries, whether it's healthcare, finance, energy, telecom, transportation, cloud, and supply chain provider are really now part of geopolitical competition, even some of the smaller organizations within those industry. Because our current reporting shows that adversaries increasingly targeting infrastructure, supply chain, and public trust and dual use technology. AP News had a very good article on that. So executives should really modify their threat models to include nation-state activity, cyber-enabled influence operation, and destructive attack, including insider risk and vendor compromise and AI-enabled deception. It's just the type of world we are getting into these days. Because once they break into one of those corporation, might seem like, okay, they are not that important, but then it becomes a foothold where they can traverse and through the supply chain and get eventually access to Fortune 100 company or to secure system that belong to the government. So we are really all in this together these days.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because the thing is, like, if you think about the third parties that cater to the DoD, right? Not only just the contractors, but the people that work for the contractors,
Mm-hmm.
the cleaners,
Yeah.
the HVAC,
Yes.
whoever that comes into the building, for that DoD contractor, they all also can be a target because
Exactly.
you never know. Like
That
you
is
don't know.
why I'm sure you've heard CCMC. We are now at version 2.0, and
Mhm.
we are only as strong as our weakest link, right? If our contractor are not secure, that's exactly the way our adversaries are going to breach into our intellectual property.
Yep, I totally agree. So now in the military, security is baked into the DNA of every operator.
Mm-hmm.
In a corporate engineering or business setting, how do you cultivate an organic security first culture without introducing friction that kills innovation?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? No, like like I was saying, when I first started working in Silicon Valley in 2014, that was one thing that my potential employer was really having a hard time with. Is this guy going to come here and turn us into the military, or is he going to be able to work, within our agile, fast, innovative type of culture? Well, I think a security first culture doesn't mean saying no faster. That's not it. If you cannot work with a business again to enable the business objective, I think you shouldn't be working there. Well, I think it means it's really helping the business say yes, but again in a safe and secure way. So you
Mhm.
have to embed security champions into engineering teams, automate secure default, right? Reward early risk reporting and make security part of the design, not a punishment at the end, right? Security has to be baked into the process, right? Your software development life cycle, not something you think about after the fact. So the goal is not frictionless innovation, but the goal is trusted innovation. I think that's really the only way to do it. So security has to be seen as a partner to the business, a partner to engineering, and to enable innovation, to enable engineering, but again, do it in a safe and secure way.
Yeah, and also, make sure that the security team is not like to make sure that the people that view the security team not as scary. We're not scary people. The security team are not scary people, or the IT team,
Mhm.
right? If you see something, say something. Basically,
Yes.
it's because you know, I I know that a lot of the users are scared of the security team or the IT team because they're like, oh, if I did something wrong,
Yeah, I
right?
think
They're
that's
like
really
they're
yes.
always like, I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to say anything because I did something wrong,
That is a great point. I believe they call that psychological safety. That's when you create a culture and environment where people feel safe enough to say, "Hey, I have messed up. How can we do better?" Because if you have a culture where people are afraid and all of that, things are going to go bad really, really fast. Because first, people are not going to speak. So something that's a very small problem now that you can fix easily is then going to turn into a huge incident and maybe even a breach. So you really want to impact the culture, affect the culture in such a way that people feel safe. That yes, I can tell you what is wrong, or I can speak up if I see something isn't going right. So
hmm
we can talk through it. That's really what you need to encourage. So as a
Yeah.
security executive, I believe you do have to impact the culture in such a way that people are open for feedback, but also open to provide feedback and not feel like they are personally attacked or that
hmm
there is going to be some type of negative response to what they say. And I think you have
Yeah.
to separate, right, the incident and the people. I
The
think we
person.
really, the person, yeah, you have to focus on, okay, what is the problem and how can we all come together and solve it as a team? I think as you do that, that's going to develop that trust, right? In the Navy, we learned that rank is rented, but trust is earned. You have to earn the
Mhm.
trust of your people. And once you earn that, I think they will follow you wherever you lead. And people need to feel like they are adding to the value of the organizations, that they own that portion of their work that is that overlaps with security. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, because I remember at the previous job that I had, uh, I was like at the help desk job. I used to walk around to make sure that everybody was good,
Hmm.
right? So my walkthroughs, uh, it did come with like, hey Tin, like I have this issue here, blah blah blah, and I'm like, okay, no problem,
Yes.
like I come in and fix it, whatever.
Yeah.
But they were not scared. They knew I was coming at one point
Huh?
during the day, so that,
That's good.
if they had an issue, they would say it, right? Versus
Yes.
calling me all the time. But they did call,
I
but
love that.
most likely they would see me walking and be like, "Oh yeah, catch
Hmm.
me um while I'm walking around," and they're like, "Hey, like, by the
Yes.
way, I have something going on with my computer." I'm like, "Okay."
No,
on my way.
That is so true, because when you lead, you really have to be visible. Like, I remember the first company I worked for in Silicon Valley, security was pretty much in the basement in a secure facility. We had our own conference room. You couldn't accidentally just show up there. Even if you got there, you couldn't get in.
Get in.
And I think
Mhm.
that is not right. As you know, in Silicon Valley, you're pretty much everywhere I've been. It's like open floor, that type of setup, and people like to collaborate, and they have this open setting. And I felt like it was really wrong for us to be so far away, invisible. And the only time they heard from security is when we had something bad to say. Hey, you are doing wrong. Hey, you need to patch the system. No, that is not going to work. One of my mentor, Ken Blanchard, they wrote a book which I probably need to read again, The 1 Minute Manager, right? Leadership managing by walking around. And I think that is very, very important to do. Your people need to know you. They need to put a face to a name, and you need to build that relationship, right? And you need to build that credit before you need to use the credit card. You need to form those relationships before the incident, before the breach. This way, when you say, okay, we do have a problem, this is what we need to do, people already know you, and they feel like they have a skin in the game, and they're going to be willing to do the right thing for the organization.
Yeah. So the modern CISO role has evolved dramatically from the IT manager to risk strategist. What is the one non-negotiable leadership trait a CISO must possess to survive the next 5 years?
Well, in my opinion, the non-negotiable leadership trait is courage. Right? In the Navy, we have 3 core values: honor, courage, and commitment. And more these days, I feel like courage is probably one of those essential traits that we have to have, not just as a sailor and warfighter, but as tech executive as well. Because the CISO must have the courage to tell the truth before the breach, not just after it. The courage to challenge executive, right? The courage to request the budget that is necessary to keep the organization safe and secure. The courage to simplify complexity, right? The courage to admit gaps, and also the courage to protect the mission even when the answer is unpopular, right? I think in the next 5 years, we will be rewarding not silent technical manager, but the next 5 years will be rewarding courageous risk leaders. Courage.
Nice. So now, in addition to your extensive technical and military background, you are also a professional pianist and fluent in 5 languages, which I know one of them is French.
Yes.
How does the discipline and structure of classical music influence the way you orchestrated complex, multi-layered cybersecurity frameworks? How does it all go together?
That's a great question. I remember, like I said, in 2005 or so, when I first became a full-time cybersecurity expert, we really were focusing on STEM: science, technology, engineering, math. But I feel like we really need to open that up and really allow people from other educational background to really jump, because there is really room for everyone. I think you don't have to be very technical to be in cybersecurity, because there is a lot of things that we do, that deals with communication, the way you think, customer service, and there is a whole lot of things you can do in cybersecurity besides just writing code or anything like that. So when it comes to music, I was 7 years old when my father forced me to learn how to play the piano. Actually, I'm curious, how did you know that I played the piano?
Research.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I am quite impressed. But yeah, I think classical music and jazz too, they've really helped me, and a lot of the things that I've learning to play those type of music really helped me throughout my career and life in general. Because I think classical music teaches structure, discipline, and timing, and listening, and harmony, right? So as a pianist, you learn that every note matters, but no note exists alone. And then I started forming chords, and you start doing that harmony. So it's really, like we say in the Navy, mission first, people always, but you say one team, one fight. You're never going to be able to be successful by yourself. It really takes a village, like we've learned in Africa. So cybersecurity is in many ways the same way. There's identity, data protection, detection response, governance, people, and culture. They may they must all work together like section of an orchestra, almost like a symphony. You have the piano, but not just the piano, but you have the drum, you have the strings, and on, and then you bring it together, and that becomes unstoppable, right? So a great conductor creates alignment so the entire system performs under pressure. And what I love about jazz is with jazz, usually you usually have kind of like a man, I guess I would call it kind of like a rhythm, a section that you go back to, but then you get to improvise. And improvising, that took me a while to start doing that. I think it really allows you to use both your left brain, but your right brain too. So you can experiment and do things kind of out of the norm, but then you come back into the essential basic, chords of whatever the section of the jazz music you are playing. So it allows you not only to be an individual and to kind of shine and try something new that you've never tried before, and you never are quite able to play the same thing twice exactly the same way. Whereas in classical music, everything is written down. I can play a piece from Beethoven today the same exact way he wrote the piece many years ago.
Yeah.
But in jazz, you can definitely make it your own and use your feelings and all of that. So again, yeah, it is okay to be an individual. It is okay to go ahead and improvise, but then you go back with a band and you get back to the solid foundation of whatever the tune you are playing. So I think a lot of those things kind of show up in life, in leadership, and in technology and cybersecurity too.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because also, just a tidbit fun fact of me, my dad also forced me into music when I
Wow.
was younger. I first started with accordion of all
Nice.
of all things. I
Mhm.
think I was 5 or 6 with the big gigantic
Yes.
accordion. That didn't work out too well. So then we switched to piano. So I did
Yes.
piano for a few years, and I haven't practiced since probably elementary. So when high school hit, I was like, not for me.
Yeah.
But I do agree that, the rhythms and all these things does help with both brain, like side of the brains,
Mhm.
like creativity and whatnot. I believe that playing the piano has helped me with school, helped me with
Yeah.
arts and all the things that I've been doing,
Mhm.
because it gives you that foundation and that, the notes and all that.
Yes.
And learning, playing the piano was, I think, instrumental, no pun intended,
Yes.
to to my
I
upbringing.
agree. I think that's probably why I was pretty good at math too, because you do a lot of mathematics when you have a sheet of music, and then you have to translate what you see to what you actually play and how it sound. So, but yes.
Yes. So you spend a great deal of time advocating for diversity in technology and mentoring the next generation of leaders. What is the single piece of advice you received early in your career that you find yourself passing down most frequently to the future executives?
I think it's probably going to have to be preparation. Right? I believe it was Maya Angelou taught Oprah. I heard it from Oprah. She said that Maya Angelou told her that success is when preparation meets opportunity.
Ooh.
Right? At times when you have an opportunity, it has kind of like a timeline. It's not going to be there forever. And if you are prepared, you can take full advantage of it. But if you are not, then the opportunity is going to pass by. So that's why I think it's so important to prepare now for an opportunity that is going to come down the line. So that is probably, one of the most important advice I've ever received. Prepare before opportunity arrives. Do not wait for the title to start leading. Do not
Mhm.
wait for permission to develop discipline. Build your character, competence, communication, and credibility right now. When opportunity comes, it is too late to prepare. So leadership really is developed daily, not in a day, but daily. That's something I learned from my primary mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell. That's why every single day he says he does 5 things. He asks questions, he reads, he writes, what are the other two?
Exercise?
No, exercise is not
No.
one of them. He asks questions, he reads, he writes, he I don't know. It does two other things, but it does it every single day. That's the reason why he's written more than 100 books. Almost all of them have
Oh,
become New York Times best-selling books. But
nice.
every single day he is writing. Every single day, it is incredible. So I kind of starting. I learned that from him. I write almost every day too. Like you mentioned my leadership devotion. I write the leadership article on LinkedIn pretty much every single day. And
Mhm.
when you do it every day, when you first start, you're not going to be very good. It's like, oh, whatever. But when you keep doing it week after week, month after month, year after year, you're going to become very, very, very good. And the truth is, anybody who's an expert now, when they first started, they were a novice and it didn't look good. What they did was really, really pitiful. But
Yeah.
because they didn't give up, they kept working at it, they became better and better and better. So I think that is important.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
what they say is practice makes perfect.
Yes.
It's one of the sayings.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, BZ, for coming on. I appreciate your input and everything that we discussed today. And again, thank you for your time. I know that you're a busy man. And I
Oh,
thank you. Yes?
sorry. I found it. So every day he reads, he writes, he thinks, he asks questions, and then he files whatever he has learned. That's
Okay.
what my mentor does every day. Very good.
Nice. Nice. And your mentor is?
John Maxwell.
John Maxwell. Well, shout out to John Maxwell.
Yes, and thanks again for this great opportunity. In closing, I would say that throughout my entire journey from a young immigrant to the U.S. to serving in the U.S. Navy, first as enlisted and now as a senior officer, I mean, it's just above and beyond my wildest dream, right?
Yeah.
And leading cybersecurity program in Silicon Valley, I've really learned one simple truth, right? I think the greatest security control is not technology, but I believe it is leadership. I really think that leadership is the most critical skill of the 21st century, the age of artificial intelligence, because AI can do a lot of things, but AI cannot lead, right? Firewall can fail, system can be compromised, artificial intelligence can make mistakes. Like with Google, right? The AI told their engineer when it erased a very important drive, I'm sorry, but they didn't get their data back. Though. But organizations with strong leadership culture, they recover faster, they adapt quicker, and they emerge stronger. My challenge to every listener is this: lead before you have a title, learn before you need the knowledge, and prepare before the crisis arrives. Because leadership is not developed during the storm, but it is revealed during the storm. So organizations that thrive over the next decade, I think, would be those organizations that are led by people who combine technical excellence with human wisdom, courage, empathy, and accountability. So stay curious, stay humble, and stay resilient, and never, never, never stop growing. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you. And thank you to the WISE crew for joining us, and see you guys next time.
Hi.